Good morning, everybody. It is Saturday, November 18th. We are the Denko Gridiron Show, the Denko Gridiron platform. Stephen Peters here, Lee Livingston there. What's up, Lee?
Reeling, depressed, sad.
Reeling, depressed, and sad. Yeah, it just kind of reemphasized in that intro that most of those teams that we have highlighted in there are no longer playing now. So yeah, it was a heck of a night in the kind of not great way for most of the area teams, or almost half of the area teams that we had playing. 6 went down, 7 are still playing, going to the regional semifinals or the state semis. But yeah, man, we've got a packed show as usual. Recapping what we saw. Oh, what else are we talking about, Lee? We're recapping what we saw.
Recapping what we saw. We're going to be talking a little bit about the schedule for next week. First off, though, I think we're going to talk a little bit about our 7 teams that we have remaining. But before we actually get into the 7 teams remaining, let's go ahead and mention our social channels. First off, you can follow us over on at Denko Gridiron. You can follow that over on our Instagram. Our Instagrams where most of our video stuff's going to be. Some of it's going to be on our Twitter as well. Our Twitter is where Steven posts all of his awesome blogs, his write-ups. You can find our pregame, what games you should be watching, what games to keep up with, the favorites, who's going to be doing what, our players of the week stuff. All of that additional information that you don't get here on the show, you can get on Twitter or on our website at denkogridiron.com. And if you have anything that you want to let us know, obviously you can let us know on our social channels and stuff, but you can also just let us know in that little email you see at the ticker at the bottom of info@denkogridiron.com.
Hey, man, you nailed it. Love it.
I know.
Yeah, so as we said, we only got 7 teams remaining from last night. Yeah, I know you were a little bit more gung ho about a lot of teams getting through. I think
I
you
just
thought
love all of our
everybody was going to get
teams.
through, and
They're like my family.
I overshot by a couple. Yeah, so it was a shocking development. So in some of those games, we only have one Frisco team in the area being done. Northwest ISD is rolling strong with the 2 teams that made the playoffs still in the playoffs. 2 of our TAPS teams are still alive out of the 3, and we have an undefeated clash on deck. So with that being said, let's get into some of the biggest surprises that we had this week.
Yes! Here we go!
Lead it off, Lee. What are some of the biggest surprises you had in terms of what we saw this past week?
I think you and I probably have a lot in common, and obviously I could have the show dog in front of me, so I know we have a lot in common in terms of
it's amazing how that works.
What surprises, right? But I mean, Reedy and Lake Dallas, just nothing happening for them. I think that kind of shocked me. Obviously I made the bold claim that Reedy was going to pull off the upset. I'm not shocked and totally that, they weren't able to win. It's the fact that it was just, 52-14. Like, it was just a lopsided win for Longview.
I mean, yeah, it was.
I could not believe that. I was like, for how well Reedy was playing going into that game over the last 2 months, they've been fantastic. I was just like, what happened? And I could go look at the box score. I don't want to. Like, I just, like, I know I should, but it's like, I don't want to do that. It'd make me sad. And then Lake Dallas, same thing. It's just, that game was 25-0 at halftime. And I think we were talking about it. It was like 3 or 4 turnovers for the Falcons, I believe. It's just an ugly game for them, but Ryder's been cooking a lot this year. They've been playing some pretty good football. I believe Ryder had a pretty tight game with Lubbock Cooper at one, during non-districts. I might be making that up. I'd have to double check that. So Wichita Falls Ryder isn't a joke. They're a pretty good team, but I thought Lake Dallas was going to be able to give them a lot tighter game than they did. Yeah, 49-20. It's just not it's a bummer in terms of what I thought those teams were capable of. And then I think the next surprise for me was Panther Creek going out and just taking care of, on the kind of the flip side, good thing. Panther Creek going out and taking care of La Vega as easily as they did. We talked a little bit about that game on Wednesday.
Yep.
La Vega, good team, and it feels like Panther Creek is going to be heading into this Anna game, and it feels more like the Salina game where this feels just like Panther Creek is not like Anna's going to be taking them very seriously. It feels like Panther Creek is not going to be a massive underdog in this game. This is going to be a very tight game. And just my thought is going to be a very, very good game. And depending on where this game is played, I think that and what the weather's like could have an impact on this game, because if it favors a fast-paced game, that could help either team out a little bit. I know Anna likes to play up fast-paced. Is that correct, or am I making that up?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on their opponent, but they have a pretty good ability to play to the style that the game is dictated. So whether it's a slow paced or fast paced or run and shoot or ground and pound, they're
a little more neutral.
They're a little bit more well rounded in terms of the 4A team. So it's kind of going to be equal footing for that Panther Creek game at the Star on Friday.
Okay, so it is at the Star, and I do think that'll help Panther Creek out, because those indoor games tend to favor higher scoring outputs, and they have higher totals. That's more from NFL data. But if we go and think about some of the high school games that we've been to at the Star, typically we see a little bit more points, and if we're going to see more points, a higher point total, I think that could be a good thing for Panther Creek. And then Northwest putting up a shootout. I know you're going to mention Northwest, but Northwest putting up a shootout. Heck yeah. Not a shootout, but a shutout. I didn't see a shutout coming. I felt decent about their chance of winning. Thought it was going to be a little bit closer. Man.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't see a 41-point blowout win where they hold Tascosa to absolutely nothing on the scoreboard. So that's, turnovers being a huge factor there, grinding the ball out with Ife again, just crushing from the start their ability to do anything that they wanted to. So yeah, I was on mute when I was trying to say the Reedy thing, like what happened. Basically, it was a stretch in the first quarter where it was like within 2 game minutes, Longview put up 21 points and basically just ended that game right before it started. So yeah, it was, and then they just could not hang with Longview. And there's a reason why they're ranked number 2 in the state, right?
There's a reason.
Team, and we thought Reedy was really good, and we got some feedback on social when we published the odds on Friday of what the games were, and it said 21.5 for Longview. We both thought on Wednesday Reedy had a good shot of pulling the upset, would be ranked if it was longer list, but 21.5 was well covered.
We thought Massey was like insane.
Yeah, it was one of those, like, really, because remember the week before Geyer was 20-point favorite.
Yeah, but Geyer was a massive favorite over Coppell, and then it's like, okay, this is another one of those.
This is one of those, the date is a little off somewhere. So, but yeah, no, good. Those are good surprises. I mean, we're in agreement in a lot of them. I'll add Ryan stumbling, and it's unfortunate too, because they were playing Ryan football for a good stretch heading into that one. They lost Braden Mussett to an injury somewhere in that game, and they had to go back to TJ Hobbs, who had a good start to the season and really tapered off. I think that Colony game was his undoing as the starter, and they relied on Braden to basically run the ball more so than anything. But they had a lot of turnovers in that one, and that's kind of what exacerbated some of these losses last night from around our area teams are turnovers. Ironically, though, one team was gifted 5, and they couldn't take advantage of it hardly, and that was Lone Star. But yeah, no, we'll talk about that game here in a little bit in that Friday night recap. So Ryan stumbling against Abilene. I thought we were going to see Northwest and Ryan in this matchup, so I'm surprised there. All 5A Frisco ISD teams going down is huge to me. Combined, they had a combined 26 game win streak for all three teams, and they all three spit the bit last night of Lone Star, Wakeland, and Reedy. Already mentioned Northwest and Nelson. Not going to talk about that one, but the other games around the state, as we were kind of perusing the box scores or the scoreboard during halftime last night, and of course last night when I got home, looking at our teams as well as what happened around the area. Cy-Fair beating Katy, which was shocking in my opinion. Katy would have probably lost to North Shore this coming up week. Now Cy-Fair gets to do that. Highland Park's comeback win over McKinney after being down 22 to, I believe, 3 or 7 or something like that. They came back to, or 21 to 7 or 3. They came back to win 22 to 21. Richland stunning Barbers Hill in overtime after trailing 34 to 9 at the half. A 25-point makeup in the second half in overtime to win. And then Lavernia and Iowa Colony, to me, were upsets across the state. So those were some of the biggest surprises that I saw. Any rebuttal? Any thoughts?
Only thing I would add is we had I think it was the 4A D2 state champs, reigning state champs. Both of them were
Yeah,
gone.
we did. We had our first casualty.
Bernie and or the state finalist, Bernie and China Springs, both gone.
Yeah, we had our first defending champion bow out in the playoffs last night. So
yeah, we're gonna have a completely different state title game.
Yeah, well, at least one. I mean,
at least one.
6A D1 is tracking to be the same. 6A D2 is tracking to be the same.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying one. So that's why I meant for one.
Yeah, we got one. Hopefully, I like you, or at least in that idea, like I like a little bit more new teams to pop up.
Yeah, it's fun having the new team here and there, and
yeah, like when Vandegrift got in there last year. Austin LBJ was in there a couple years ago. When Port Neches was a new one last year, but they're going to be probably repeating. So, just a programming note, real quick. This is going to be an abbreviated show, most likely. We don't have a lot to talk about because, again, as teams leave, and the amount of games that we could cover dwindle, what we could talk about is going to be shortened. So this one may not be the full hour, maybe 45, maybe it's only 35, who knows? But we're going to get to saying hi to John here in a second, and then talk about our Friday night recap, and then the upcoming schedule, and go from there. So say hi to John.
Everything's bigger in Texas, especially Texas high school football. We're entering our 7th season with the Denko Gridiron platform. We started this 7 years ago, right across the street at West Oak Coffee Bar. Just an idea to bring content directly wherever you are. Be a part of the community. Join us. Help our contributors to tell the stories each and every Friday night throughout the season. Talking your town, your team.
And additionally, I would like to save my voice. You have your shock collar that's installed in your neck when you have something to say that goes off. And then I have a raspy voice that has just deteriorated throughout the week. So that's been great. All right. So we saw John. Thanks, John, again, for supporting us and what we're doing. Lee's at the studio that you rent out, providing equipment and just allowing us to have this platform. So thanks to him. Again, if you want to partner with us, info at dencogridiron.com, or you can hit me up at steven@dencogridiron.com. So yeah, let's talk about the Friday night recap. Let's get into that. I'm going to let you lead off in the Forney versus Lone Star, where Forney just narrowly avoided the collapse late and beat Lone Star.
Yeah, I think let me whack the mic there. So I think this game was, it was a blast in the second half. It was fun. It was exciting. The crowd was, the energy in the stadium was just amazing.
I will say a shout out to that Forney crowd. They had a much longer trek, and they showed out and were.
Oh
loud.
Yeah, it was impressive. And then just to be in that atmosphere for the entire second half was awesome, because it was just so back and forth. It was a bit sloppy though, just from both sides. It was not the cleanest of games. And I think part of that was due to some odd coaching decisions and calls from both sides. Neither coaching staff, in my opinion, had a great game. Players made some mistakes and stuff, but I think more of it had to do with odd play calling and decisions.
Yeah.
Forney, obviously, like I understood why they didn't want to kick to players at Lone Star, especially after they gave up that long kick return early in the game. They just insisted on kicking it right at the sideline, and it just wasn't working. I mean, they kept kicking it out of bounds. They like 3 kickoffs go out of bounds. It's like, why are we doing that? And then at the end of the game, no one told Javion Osborne to go out, to just go down if he broke off a long run. So he goes, scores a touchdown, and then Forney could have gone for a 2-point conversion, completely buried the game, made it a 2-possession game, kick the extra point. It's good. And it's an 8-point game.
Yeah.
Obviously that worked out in their favor because Lone Star ended up going for 2 after they scored a touchdown at the last second, or with 20 something odd seconds left, and did not convert the 2-point conversion on what was a very weird play call. Play design, play call. I don't know what the deal was there. It just did not, poor decision. And it benefited Forney, but I think Forney got lucky in a lot of scenarios, and it was just a bizarre game to me. There was a lot of luck involved, and Lone Star did not take advantage of any of the turnovers that they were gifted. It felt like, so it's just kind of a frustrating game, I think, for Lone Star, and one that they are definitely going to want back.
Yeah, I 100% agree on everything you said. I think the coaching decisions, and I hate to be an armchair quarterback or a coach and everything, and then retroactively talking about decisions made. But in real time, we're saying give the ball to Davion Gross, or take some shots, or do something. And they had to rely on taking shots late when you are in desperation mode, and they started giving the ball late to Davion Gross when you're in desperation mode. And when you're not doing something consistently for a game, then you have to change the tactic late to go for the tie or whatever. That puts a lot of pressure and a huge change in mentality for the players, and they're not always going to succeed. These are still kids and everything. So I was frustrated by what was going on. I applauded Forney throughout the game for taking shots, regardless if it hit from Crawford or if it was intercepted. They were taking shots over and over and over again, and they made the Lone Star defense have to be respectful in that sense. Conversely, like you said, Javion Osborne not going down when he broke off. It was obvious that they allowed him to score because they tried that 51-yard field goal, which
that's not even something I forgot to mention.
Like, it landed 10 yards. So I'm behind in the end zone. It landed 10 yards in front of me and bounced, and I'm like, and it was going to be wide right. So I didn't understand that choice.
My mom was so she was in the stands. She was at the game watching, and
really? Shout out Miss Livingston.
Yeah, and shout out Mom. So she was telling me where she was in the sidelines, and I was like, I was like 5 or 10 yards short, and she's like, I think it was longer, because she was in the stands, like she's watching from that side angle, and she's like, oh, it was shorter than that.
Oh yeah.
I was like, oh my.
Yeah, it was really
bad.
bad.
No idea what was going on. I was like, because you and I were talking about it in the end zone. It's like, if you're gonna if you're gonna rely on a 51-yard field goal, it's like, even in college, it's like,
yeah,
that needs to be a lock. Like, that needs to be, this dude's, he is money from 50.
I mean, like, it was
only 4th and 8, so it's like, I'd rather just, like, why not just go for 4th and 8? You already threw the ball twice on 2nd and 3rd down.
Right.
So
yeah, I mean, and the ball then goes to where the ball is spotted as opposed to the original line of scrimmage. So if you don't get anything, or if you get 3 more yards, or at least you've backed him up a little bit more. I don't know. That was the squirrely choice there. And then I mean, even off the foot, I could tell right away that ball had no chance. I'm like, what?
And it was a different kicker.
Yeah, it wasn't random.
And he was like warming his leg up prior, like while he was out there.
Yeah, and I was
like,
get that
did this dude take any warm up kicks into the net? Like, I don't know. It was bizarre.
Yeah, it was weird, but that would have given Lone Star the lead, 21 to 19. Instead, it then gets turned around into a touchdown, and it's 26 to 18. And obviously, that they let Javion Osborne score, but he did not go down. And then Lone Star just went straight basically to Bryson Jones and Davion Gross, and they got him down. And Davion made a heck of a catch in the end zone, a 26-yard high point ball. That was an insane catch. And of course, I didn't record it. I forgot to hit the record button as I'm trying to get around people and everything.
Yeah, I was doing the same thing. I think I got the catch, but everything prior to that was like, so I got to sort through all the footage.
Yeah.
But
and then just the play. It was a bad. Okay, let me rephrase it. It wasn't a bad play design. I think though it just wasn't thought through. Like if that's your game time, 4th and goal or 2-point conversion play, it needs to be looked at again, because all it did was you had no change in the defense basically when shifting the fullback or the tight end over. And then it became a 2-on-1 for that tight end or fullback to block. And he missed. And 2 guys stuffed Davion Gross 2 yards short. It was an awful play. Now they had a backside play that they ran earlier in the game that worked perfectly. They should have done that again, because that side was wide open. So
you're talking about just like a counter run, basically. Where
like a PA rollout. Where I mean, he could have bootlegged maybe and scored.
If he did some kind of bootleg and he went to the opposite corner, basically if he went to the corner I was sitting at,
the
camera
opposite of me where you were at, it was wide open.
I think he had a one-on-one with a linebacker, and it's like, that linebacker's not beating him to the edge.
Yeah, or you have somebody roll with them in the end zone. So if he takes you, then you just dump it over the top.
Yeah,
or if he stays with the tight end, you run it. I don't know. It was just not something I would have run, just a power off the edge and getting blown up. So just again, it was ugly football. It was an exciting game, ugly football though, up and down. I felt like Forney was going to run away in the second half just because they were taking chances and making plays, and Lone Star, outside of that one kick return, had nothing going for it. And then they started the second half and immediately punted, and then they got an interception, and then they went up and scored. And I was like, okay, now we're seeing something from Lone Star. And that was the one time I think they did anything with an interception or a turnover.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, it was a struggle. But there were 2 ranked teams, so it was kind of like that. It was slippery out there. Try not to make an overtly bad decision or play that would cost the game, and that's kind of where you get those tight, ugly games happening, where it's like nobody's really trying to do too much and ruin it for everybody. So, it was just unfortunate break for Lone Star. I felt like they were a better team going in, but was not their night.
Yep, I think that's a pretty good way to summarize it. It just wasn't their night, and I mean, it does feel like they were the better team. Just I think the end all be all is probably give the ball to your better players, and I think that's something that can be said for teams at every level. You see it with, I think the Falcons as a team with Bijan, where it's like, why are certain players getting the ball? Like, why are you're 3 downs at the goal line, giving the ball to anyone but him? And it's just, it's one of those things that I don't totally understand sometimes with coaches. It's like, just put the ball in your best player's hand, let them do their work. I understand in high school, not giving a guy the ball 20, 30 times. It's like, hey, like he's a teenager. Let's not like ruin him for the future. Like I can like if that's the reasoning, that's totally fine. But it's like come playoff time, it's like let the kid like that kid is competitive, that athlete is there, like he wants to compete. So if your reasoning is you want to save him through the regular season and not give him 30 plus touches a game in the regular season, okay, but let the guy like get at least 20 or so touches in the playoffs because it's like that's his season. Like let him have a say in it. So
Yeah,
I think
100%.
that's a little bit of a frustration for me is like he didn't even get 15.
Right. Yeah, and I mean he's going to get a lot of the carries or attention next year. I think
Yeah,
Bryson
obviously.
was a senior or is a senior. Colin is obviously a senior. I think Carice Hoyt is a senior, so he goes in being the bell cow next year as the guy. Now it's just hoping that he can stay healthy the entire year because he did get injured with his
Yes.
hand and reduce his role and output, and then they had to rely on him late, and he performed, but it just wasn't enough, unfortunately. So yeah, and again, it's just frustrating, but that's playoffs, right? One
Yep.
team has to lose, and the other one has to keep going. So speaking of going, we're getting close to the end of what we wanted to talk about today. Again, shorter show because less teams to talk about. So let's talk about the regional semis and the state semis for TAPS next week. We know 6 of the 7 games, all their details. Starting off, we'll go earliest on Friday through latest on Saturday, and then the one that we do not have any information on yet. First off is Gilmer versus Aubrey. Aubrey did win last night. They beat Van pretty handedly, even though they were quote unquote underdogs in that one. They'll play at 4 p.m. on Friday at Commerce. I think that's going to be a great game. Gilmer, the former Fighting Jeff Trailers, are a good team. They're regularly having to battle out against Carthage, so they are a battle tested team. This will be a very tough test for Aubrey in that one. Moving on, the game we're probably going to go to on Friday, Argyle versus Colleyville Heritage, 6 p.m. Friday at C.H. Collins in Denton. That will be an exciting matchup. Both teams are playing exceptionally well right now. So we'll see just how good Argyle is playing at this time versus what Heritage is doing, both district champions in this one. Northwest, as we talked about earlier, rolling through Tascosa. They will meet Abilene, who beat Ryan. That's at 7 p.m. Friday at Memorial Stadium in Wichita Falls. Then moving on to Saturday will be, or at least I think we'll be at this one. I know I will be. Coppell versus Nelson, undefeated district champions. 3 p.m. Saturday at Choctaw and Arlington. And then the last one we know of, All Saints. Oh no, it's not the last one we know of. I missed one. I need to put it in here, but All Saints versus Liberty, a rematch from the regular season. This will be fun, I think, at the Ford Center. And then I'm trying to type and talk at the same time. Let's move it up. I missed this one earlier, but Panther Creek versus Anna. That is 7 p.m. Friday at the Ford Center. Right? Is that correct?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah. So that one will be fun to watch as well. And then the last one we don't know about is Prestonwood versus Houston St. Thomas. That is the TAP State semifinals in Division 1. All right. So you know all that of what's happening. Lee, which one intrigues you the most, or which couple intrigue you the most?
Man, I love all these games a lot. They're all very interesting to me. I think at first I would have said it was Panther Creek Anna, but I think now I think it's going to be Argyle Colleyville Heritage. I know that's the game we're going to be going to, but
Yep.
man, I think it's just going to be I want to know if that's going to be if it's going to be close or if Argyle kind of just pulls away. Like I think this is gonna be a good indicator, just a good kind of feel for like what Argyle is at the moment.
Yeah, I think we're looking at like a one possession game. I think we could easily see Argyle and Colleyville Heritage play similarly to how that Argyle Emerson game finished, where it was
Mhm.
tied late, and the last team with the ball wins basically. I can easily see that happening. I don't see a blowout on either favor, um, but who knows? They're both really good teams. So for me, the most intriguing one is Coppell and Nelson. Coppell struggled against Jesuit, but then pulled away late in the second half. Nelson had no problems in their matchup against Midland. They probably played a little pissed off because they had to go all the way out to Midland to play. So I'm sure they're happy to be back home and playing or near home and playing in the Metroplex. I think the underlying story there is like the potential for rematches in the next round, right? We talked about this off air. So let's say Aubrey wins, then you're playing Carthage, or Gilmer plays Carthage. That's a district rematch. Argyle has the potential to play Emerson in the next round. There's a district rematch. Northwest and Aledo. And I'm not surprised that Northwest is in this position. I felt like Aledo and Northwest had played the best football consistently throughout the year. So I would not be surprised to see those two match up again in the regional finals. But there's another district rematch. Panther Creek and Salina, we're both intrigued about that one highly. And then Coppell and South Lake, Byron Nelson and South Lake. Again, all regional final, all district rematches, very much possible. And so that sets up to man, we hope at least two of those games are on differing days, so we can go to one of them if that so happens, right? Yeah, because I want to see both. I mean, it's always the thing in the NFL, right? It's hard to beat a team 3 times in a year if you've swept them in the regular season and you meet again in the playoffs. I think it's the same thing with high school football. It's hard to beat a team that second time that you see them. Look at Liberty last year, right? They beat All Saints handily in the regular season, get to the second round of the playoffs, lose. Now you're doing that again. You're in the state semifinals. You already beat them pretty handily. Now you have to go and play them again. So I don't know. Just to me, it's those storylines are always very juicy.
Yeah, they're always really fun. I mean, I think you're 100% right. Like it's hard beating a team twice. There's a reason district stuff gets weird sometimes. It's each other really well. You've played each other a bunch, and then all of a sudden you're adding a playoff factor into it, and you're playing each other not just for the 10th time in 10 years, but the second time that season. So it's a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's the schedule. It's all on DenkoGridiron.com. Just as a reminder, we'll have our players of the week on Monday. We'll start breaking down all 7 games and giving them a little bit more treatment than we normally do, as opposed to a small blurb. We might give 2 small blurbs plus a player to watch, or 2 for that game. Maybe 1 on offense, 1 on defense for our home teams. And then the normal, and we'll enjoy some Thanksgiving food. Lee, we didn't talk about this before. I know you said you're available after the fact. Are we going to have a show on Wednesday?
Yeah, definitely. As long as if you're down for
I'm
it,
here.
I am always ready.
Always down for it. All right, yeah. So we'll be back on Wednesday. But before we sign off, what are some parting shots? Tell me your day, man.
Parting shots. I think we have to end the show with I love all of our teams, and I'm sad that some of you I don't get to watch anymore.
Yeah, if we could have had 28 state champions out of the Denko area, we would love that.
I don't have to have all the state champions. I just want all of them at as far as they can go. And then just give me
some of them went as far as they could go.
No, they didn't. I wanted like a Reedy Lone Star game. I wanted, Ryan in Northwest. I wanted all the Denko games, and I wanted the Denton County area to have all the state champions. And then state semifinal games could have been. I don't think that's even possible that Denton County would have.
No, not possible. But I love the fandom. I love the fandom.
Yeah, this is we said this before the show. You're the journalist. I'm the video guy who's completely biased, and you're here for a reason.
I'm here for a reason. It's to look pretty on a white backdrop. What's your day looking like, young sir?
I'm gonna go sit down at I think I have to do a little bit of work, and then I'm just going to edit videos and drink coffee.
Hopefully you get out to Melissa and Suck. I am off.
I'm trying to get to it.
To Allen again. I should have stayed there last night and just hung out in the press box as opposed to going back and forth.
Next time, just bring a sleeping bag.
Yeah, just sleep in the car in the parking lot. That's probably the move. Yeah, so we'll be back on Wednesday. Studio the regional semifinals for UIL and the state final or semifinals for TAPS. All right, Lee. Appreciate your time. Appreciate everybody watching and listening. Hit us up after the fact if you want to. You can see the stuff scrolling at the bottom, and we'll talk to you on Wednesday.
All right. Bye, guys. Thanks for watching. We love you.